Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event Fightcast. I'm your host, Vega, alongside my co-host, Coach Mike. And welcome to the newish setup. Still a work in progress, obviously, but we're having some fun with it. Just like we had tons of fun watching the first pay-per-view of the year.
I mean, the beginning wasn't all that fun.
The early prelims were okay. They started. I mean, what made the early prelims very interesting was two specific fights. Of course, I may have a little bit of bias on this first one, but Eileen Perez beating Caro Rosa.
Impressive.
I told you guys, bro. Like Eileen Perez is much like Merab, bro. She's like baby Merab. She just keeps the pressure, and that's really all that we saw. It wasn't anything like super fancy, nothing super crazy to brag about. But she's on the run, bro.
Is that why she wanted him to slap her ass while she was twerking?
I think so.
Was she trying to get his powers?
I think so. I think it was a transfer of power.
I like
it was a transfer of power ritual. We got to practice it more.
Smart.
The other big fight, and I know this one hurts for a lot of people to bring it up again, but like, we got to do what we got to do out here. You know what I'm saying? And we got to talk about the first fraud check of the night.
Payton.
No, Rinya Nakamura was first. Rinya was on the early prelims against Muin Gafurov, bro.
Was first, yeah.
That shit was crazy because that one, like, I don't even really know if we can call it a fraud check because I'm not really sure what happened in that fight.
I can't call it a fraud check because I didn't know of him beforehand, so I can't, I didn't know too much of him. I never really put any hype behind him, but huge favorite, not getting it done.
My big issue with the whole thing is, bro, where was your wrestling?
Yeah.
Like, that's all you do is wrestle.
It seemed like a common theme for the day. Like,
where was your wrestling?
A lot of people, coaches screaming at their fighters to do what they're supposed to do, with what they're known to do, which is wrestle, and maybe gun shy. I don't know what it was, but
something was up. I think
he had a couple scrambles where he could have saved the day for himself by getting a submission or something, but he wasn't really there. It wasn't able to hold.
Maybe it was the pressure of being on the first pay-per-view of the year, worrying about being the boring fight, or they always get those labels when they over wrestle. Especially, I could see that in the case of like a Rinya Nakamura, who his big tactic is wrestling. But, and I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place right now, but like we didn't really hear too much booing when Grant Dawson did that. You know what I mean? Grant Dawson went in there, he laid his game plan out, he stuck to his game plan and made it work.
That's also what Grant Dawson does. He's a veteran.
But he's gotten booed in almost every fight, even when we see it coming.
Yeah.
So for him not to get booed on this particular card either says the audience was really, really, really full of Dagestani and wrestling fans, or it wasn't like the MMA community is growing past the point where we just want to see knockouts every 5 minutes.
It depends. It definitely depends where they're at. And like you said, there were probably a lot of wrestling fans.
We saw what the main event and the co-main were, so we can expect that. But we'll get to that in a second because as you talked about, the next big fraud check happened on the prelims, and that was my guy. I don't know I know what happened here, right? Like, it's a very clear, this one's a much easier fraud check situation, right? Like, we've heard Payton talk about his jiu-jitsu. We've heard him talk about his wrestling, but we've never actually seen it. Well, and in this fight, we didn't see it because it doesn't exist.
Some of the experts have definitely mentioned his wrestling being weak and still chose him.
Like, not some. The dude was a 9,900 on DraftKings. I've never seen that before. The most I've ever seen was 98. A 99 is insane. He was a minus 1,200 favorite. The cash out, if you had Muin Gafurov and Raoni Barcelos in a parlay, the cash out was incredible. Throw Eileen in that too. And then let's not forget my personal favorite underdog of the night, Merab. Yeah. Because the audacity.
Ridiculous.
Like the audacity to make Merab the champion underdog. Like people, I would love to have a conversation with an odd maker to just get an understanding. Is like, how did you guys come to that decision? Like, because I'm telling you, that is what Merab was mad about, right?
It's like you said. He wasn't fighting Umar. People thought he was fighting Khabib.
Right. He was shadow fighting Khabib. And people, for whatever crazy reason, were just like, Khabib wins this fight. And it wasn't Khabib he was fighting. That's a really big deal, really important factor. I'm really, really happy that Merab won. Like, I don't have any issue with the Khabib camp. I don't have any issue with Khabib fans. I'm just of the belief that we didn't see enough of Khabib at a pro level for the accolades that he gets and the love he gets. He retired undefeated. Give that 100%, right?
Khabib is
But
one of
people
those guys.
question Floyd, and he retired 50-0.
But the thing is with Khabib is the level of dominance that we've seen. Him not dropping around. It leads to almost the Michael Jordan factor of some people give him the 2 championships he was gone for because they believe he would have won it anyways.
Yeah, I don't think that he wouldn't have stayed champion for a while, right? Because at that time, the competition that he had, right? But I am on the side of, like, I'm a Michael Jordan fan, right? But I'm on the side of the LeBron argument where I say, okay, I can accept the game has evolved so much that maybe my guy back then might not be that guy right now. Right? Because the game evolves the game has evolved so much, right? Now, in the case of a Habib, we have a much better example of what his potential was with Islam, right? Because they literally trained they were on the same trajectory. They were side by side. They're almost the same age, if not the same age.
No.
Right?
Khabib's a little older.
Khabib's like 2 years older, I think, right? Something like that. So, but like they're pretty much same trajectory, right? So like we can look at that and be like, okay, yes, Islam is a great example to show maybe Khabib would not have fallen, right? Because look at how dominant Islam has been, right? But we still don't know because a lot of the people that Islam has dominated, well, no, I guess Dustin's really the only person he dominated that, or he beat that fought Khabib. Yeah, that's the only one. But the win over Volk, I take nothing away from what Islam got with that win. I think 100% deserves everything that came.
I think the first win was the first like crack in his armor.
The first win was questionable.
No,
sure.
I'm not even saying questionable. I thought he won the fight. Yes, it was close, but I thought he won the fight. But it was the first crack in his armor. It seemed he looked beatable.
Yeah.
He didn't. You didn't. After that win, you weren't like, oof, Islam. Like nobody's gonna beat you,
right? And we still want to see Arman.
I was of the thinking that give Volk another opportunity, Volk will win. Unfortunately, Volk was put in a terrible position where
he put himself in that position. He asked for the fight.
You're right.
He didn't offer it. He asked for it.
He asked for it, didn't get it. Didn't train, didn't get into training camp. He stayed on his couch, depressed and drinking.
Yep. And then when the opportunity came,
and he accepted it.
He asked for it.
No, he was called.
No, I think
he accepted it.
Think so? I think he called them.
I wouldn't be surprised if he saw after the fight, but the opportunity presented himself. He wasn't ready, and he wasn't going to say no. It's the problem.
It's tough to really, when I think about that situation, it's tough to say because, like, obviously we all immediately say, yeah, we wouldn't have taken that, right? But like in the moment,
I don't think.
Do you take it?
I don't think so. I think that's a very like after the fact.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I think it's a very after the fact thought.
In that moment, you call any fighter who's had that same situation where he's a little depressed that he lost, he's drinking more than usual, he's not in the gym. They get that call. 98% of fighters say yes. A very low, maybe it's
I think you're right.
Maybe
you're right.
Maybe it's a little lower.
Yeah, but like 90s for sure, right? But I would say
there's something there's something called the ego that takes over there.
But I would say that's less than 5% of fighters who end up in that position, right? Where they stop training, right? Because Volk wasn't actively training, and that's part of the problem. It's
the problem is you have a whole division to defend,
right? You
had a whole division as a reason to
stay active.
But he did kind of lapped that division, and this was his new challenge, and it hurt him. He lost.
And I think, and like I said,
I just don't think he lost. I don't think he lost in a way that he should be depressed about.
I also don't think he lost personally, but that's just my take.
No, but whether you scored it for him or not, I don't think a close decision loss is enough to make you depressed.
Well, we can't speak for that
Had
because we
he
don't know.
knocked you out or beat you up so bad it was never competitive, maybe I get that. But that's what was weird to me.
I don't know. I can't speak to that part of it, but
Mm-hmm.
for me, the whole point was simply to say, like, up until this point, Islam beat Charles, right? Which I think, like I said, I think that's his best win, in my opinion, right? Is beating Charles. Um, I think his fight against Dustin was a much bigger deal for Dustin than for Islam because Dustin's performance was incredible, right? And then the wins against Volk, the problem I have with them is like he's a 145er, right? So I'm on that camp of like, yes,
I
but you
don't
beat a
really
smaller guy.
I wouldn't label it as that because Volk has fought at higher divisions than even 170.
Yeah, but you
I
still beat
mean,
a smaller, you still beat a
even
smaller guy.
155.
Like he
Sorry.
might have fought in those, but he didn't have a lot of success in those areas. So it's not like you can say like, yeah, he fought. Like saying Alex Pereira fought at middleweight and fought at light heavyweight is very valid to say. Saying Izzy fought at light heavyweight and middleweight, not as valid.
No,
Yeah, one
he
fight
had
he
one fight.
lost, and it didn't like. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, so that's what I mean when we say like Volk had a couple of fights in different weight classes, but that was more him trying to figure out where he fits
Mm-hmm.
because he's
He
a
was
heavy ass
he was a
small
big
dude because he used to play rugby,
he was a big
right?
dude.
So he was a big like I think when he was playing rugby, he was like 210, 220. You know what I'm saying? So now fighting at 145, he had to get into a shape where he could move his body in a way that made sense for this sport.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's why I say like
I mean,
you're fighting a smaller guy.
it's no
You know?
different than when we've seen Max's first trip at 155 against Dustin and for the interim title when something happened with Khabib and Ferguson. They were both out.
I don't know what you mean by the comparison.
The sense that he had his first time going to the weight class, he credits his girlfriend now for like being a nutritionist and like eating right and all of that. But back then, his first trip is still an unknown, and it's like how you do it is very different. You see the difference in his physique. When Max fought at 155 against Dustin, he didn't look like a 155er. He still looked like the same guy at 145. But his second time going to the weight class, he looked more chiseled. Like he did it the right way.
Yeah, I don't know what
And
you
it's
mean
just
comparing
it
it
was
to the Volk Islam thing.
it's just a very different performance. So that alone gave me a thought that Volk can beat Islam if he does it the right way. Unfortunately, the fact that he already lost twice now is going to make it hard for him to get that third meeting.
But I'm
But I
saying,
think
I'm talking
he can
about
definitely do
Islam.
it
I'm
better.
talking about Islam's like position in the run.
That's what I'm saying. The only person that I think can that right now off the top of my head that I think can beat him at 155 possibly is probably Volk.
That's ridiculous to say. You saw him lose twice, and you'd say he's the only person that has potential to beat him.
How is it
You
ridiculous
saw him
if you
lose to Ilya.
how is it ridiculous if you think it was 1-1? You'd believe he won the first one.
I believe he won the first one, and
And
I
you
saw him get knocked clean out on the second one, and then Ilya knocked him out. So to think that he's the only person that could beat Islam is nuts. For that to even be the first person that comes to mind is crazy, bro.
even saying that I could beat him and he could beat him is not even like he will or whatever. It's just he seems like the biggest threat to the belt at the moment. Maybe Ilya could be that too, but Islam doesn't seem too into it. He doesn't seem.
I don't think it's fair to knock Armin out of the conversation. Like
That's true. That's true.
Like he's clearly the biggest threat.
That is true.
Right?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not. I never bought into the Armin hype, but hey, I would. I'll watch it. I'll watch it. They book it again. I'll watch it. And I just don't know that Armin really is that good. But I could be wrong.
But how many fights have you watched of Armin?
2.
Yeah,
That's why.
That's why.
Mm-hmm.
That's why. Be having those biases that we'd be working with.
It's not a bias. It's a sense I just never seen something there that is a threat to Islam's game. But
you've seen 2 fights. You have the option of watching any fight you want. The internet's available. You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. I feel like we got to give these guys more of a shot. We get stuck in the superstars that get built, and then we sit back and go, well, damn, who's going to take their place? And it's really hard to do that when we don't really give them the potential. And I think it's happened for a lot of fighters. Like right now specifically, right, the whole 155 division. Right, like if you're not in the top 6, like people don't even know your name.
Mm-hmm. There's some guys. Patty's there.
Patty's making noise
They've known his name before he even jumped into the division,
into the division.
to the rankings. But it's one of those things that you have to make yourself a star because they're not really marketing any 55ers when it's it's been held down by Islam for so long. Nobody's really considered a threat right now. Do you think Patty could ever be that? Because I think it's very realistic.
I think Patty has
Islam.
potential to be a champion. I don't think he takes the sport serious enough. I feel like I feel similarly about Patty as I feel about Kevin Holland. Right? Like Kevin Holland had the potential 6 or 7 years ago if he would have, like, that first time that he got really dominated grappling with Habib, if he would have been like, you know what? That was the absolute worst version that I'll ever experience of that. So if I can get good enough to at least never, like, I'm never gonna see that again. You know what I'm saying? So let me get good enough to beat everything beyond that and figure out a different way to tackle this guy. Then he would have had much more potential. But he never took it serious enough.
But I disagree with that segment. I think it's the opposite. I think Kevin Holland hasn't taken it serious and took more of a I'm a gangster, I'm gonna fight anybody approach, as opposed to Patty's been way more strategic to his growth.
No, I think the UFC has been more strategic. Remember, timing wise, right? Oh snap! I still got paint on me. Timing wise, Patty's come into the UFC during the marketing generation, right? Where they're picking, like, Dana's still sticking by his guns of, like, we're not protecting fighters, right? But they are picking fighters, right? Like, they are choosing, like, yo, who's making enough noise that we could potentially make him a star? Because at the end of the day, this is a business, right? But as far as fighters go, right, like, Patty's not picking who to fight. They also haven't given him anybody noteworthy. They just give him people where he can shine for the win because that sells him as a fighter.
I think they're giving him a slow
Bobby's probably, outside of the stupid ass decision he made in the fight, he was the toughest person for him so far. He made a really dumb decision in there.
Granted, I think he shot for the takedown because he was being bothered by the length of Patty. Like, he couldn't get to him.
Yeah, probably. But I think as someone who doesn't really do the takedown game, your game is avoiding getting hit. And like, you better start measuring better, bro.
You just jumped into a submission artist submission.
Right. Like, you better figure that shit out. There were a couple highlights on the prelims as well. One that was really fun to watch was Bogdan Guskov and Billy Elikana. Because first round, I thought this dude was about to choke Bogdan out. And as expected,
Billy was good till his gas tank gave up on him.
And it gave up pretty quick. The stoppage was interesting.
He's clearly a 185er, and size matters, and it took a part of him. I think trying to grapple down a bigger guy
was a lot. Was a lot for him. The stoppage, I think, was probably one of the more interesting stoppages of the night. It was a little weird because, so I want to ask rather, right? Like, do you think that should have been a TKO and the ref took too long, so that's why it turned into a sub? Because, I mean, at the point that Billy Elikana was sitting there taking punches, like, it's debatable to say you're intelligently defending yourself. Like, you are intelligently defending yourself because you're keeping your arms up, but that's all you can do in this moment.
Yeah, it's right. It's one of those things where he didn't want to take the chance of, why punch myself out, or
like, this ref's not giving it to me. Let me just
the ref is not stopping it. Let me make sure I just grab this choke,
right,
or something weird
before I gas out or something weird happens.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people were pissed off because that's a really, really weird bet for Bogdan. But if you're one of those people who take those wild risks, congratulations, because boy, that paid out.
Yeah.
Zachary Reese
pissed me off.
Jiu-jitsu nerd. out of nowhere. Not out of nowhere. We've known he's a jiu-jitsu guy, but this was the first situation that he was on his back and did the jiu-jitsu nerd shit, bro. Butt
Yeah.
school until he got knocked out.
Well, he accepted the position, and that's just not gonna work.
And we talked about Payne Talbot and Ronnie Barcelo. Man, Ronnie came in and said, yo, stop calling me old. He said, stop calling me old. And then things get crazy.
Yeah.
Because for the main card, opening up, right, Reiner der Ritter walks into the cage and does everything I just talked about, right? He literally just went in there and dismantled Kevin Holland in seconds, right? To the point where I was like, yo, why is Kevin lying to himself? Like, he said it so confidently that I believe that he believed Rayner would not sub him. So I bet it was going to go the distance. And Rayner came in there and subbed the shit out of Kevin Holland.
Quick, but don't.
Not super quick. It was 3 minutes, but it was quick.
It was pretty quick. He made quick work of him. Like,
Yeah.
But noteworthy to me is Not Like Us is now 0-2 in the UFC.
Not Like Us is 0-2 in the UFC.
Don't come
because
out to Not Like Us.
Not the next fight. The next fight was actually fantastic. I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but Jailton Almeida versus Sergey Spivak being a sloppy
heavyweight grapple fest into
a dazzling TKO.
Into a sequence that leads to a TKO.
It was great.
It was
another person that pissed off the internet because, again, KOs from Jailton Almeida, not expected, but it's a heavyweight bout, bro. It's heavyweights. If you think there's going to be a finish, you just bet the finish because these guys are unpredictable. They're massive. I want to spend some time with this fight because you don't disrespect the warrior code, bro. You know what it is between Alex and Yuri that's happening that makes that fight so powerful? It's a warrior fight, bro. You got a warrior from the South Americas, the Latin Americas. You got a warrior from the Caucasus regions who believes he's a samurai. So it's a real warrior battle, bro. You know who doesn't show up to a warrior battle? A thug.
Are you calling Jamal Hill a thug?
Yes. Jamal Hill has been acting like a bratty ass thug since Alex Barrera knocked him out. So, Jamal
Hill's my guy.
As much as I liked Jamal Hill before he got knocked out by Pereira, all the antics made this a very fun fight to watch.
Listen, Jamal Hill did not respect his opponent. And
Jerry had the utmost respect for him. It was insane. The contrast was crazy, bro.
And in doing it, he also didn't respect his jaw. Because Yuri called him clean in the jaw. Clean.
Not just in the jaw, bro. The jaw, the eye, the temple, the forehead.
Listen.
He looked bad.
Jamal Hill displayed toughness that most people don't want to go into a fight and display.
At all.
He's tough. But Jerry showed up with this head movement. He was not as easy to hit as he usually is. And Jamal Hill was swinging for the fences and leaving himself out there.
And I will say, because Yuri's been very concerned about this, you did a better job of keeping your hands up.
Yeah, you try to keep
However, it is not hard to go from 0 to 1. You feel me? So, you made an improvement. However, very, 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 very incremental.
He had his hands up early, and then later on he went into his fighting style.
Yeah. He did very well in his fighting style. The head movement, there's clips of him dodging a couple punches of Jamal's that were incredible.
Amazing. He fought an
great
fight.
Great fight.
Very entertaining. And Jamal Hill has to make some changes. But most of all, most of all is internally. I think he's
okay. That's fair.
He's confusing being confident in himself with not preparing himself correctly, because he just like Holland thought there was no chance this guy would sub him. He seemed to believe that this guy cannot knock me out.
Yeah. which is a wild thought.
It is.
But that's part of why I was gonna say
I just think a person is way more dangerous when he respects his opponent and understands he can turn my lights out.
right.
I have to do it before he does it to me,
But
or I have to stay in safe zones.
that's always where I challenge the confidence piece because I'm like, yo, you have to have. For me personally, I feel like, and I think John Jones might have said this at one point too, as something. But like, you have to have a certain level of fear walking into the cage, right? Not confidence. Like when you go into the cage with confidence and you believe you could break anybody, right? Yeah, that can be good for the right person. But for most people, right, if you don't have a true concern that you're in danger, you can't activate.
Just because you're able to break anyone doesn't mean you're unbreakable.
Right. You need that. You need that act. Like I feel like you need that primal instinct of, oh, I'm in danger for you to be able to activate your best, right? 100%. And I think that's where Jamal Hill dropped the ball here. Now, here's where I think I'm still not ready to say Jamal Hill needs to make changes, right? Because we've seen him lose to two monsters, right? Let's never forget, Yuri did not lose the belt. He gave it up because he got injured.
As
like,
Jamal,
I'll come
as
back,
Jamal Hill did.
Right? Jamal Hill did the same, right? But Yuri's run to the belt was way more impressive and interesting than Jamal Hill's run.
It's debatable.
I think Yuri has
Jamal
had.
Hill was undefeated until he got caught in an armbar from Paul Craig.
But I think Yuri has had more interesting fights. I wouldn't say tougher opponents because the opponent class has been about the same.
I do think he's a bigger star, 100%.
But he's definitely been a bigger star, right? And on top of that, I think his performances across every fight are so unique that they're more captivating and they're more right. His versus Jamal Hill has kind of been stuck in that.
His fight style is just so
it's just a different puzzle to figure out. And the same with Pereira, right? So I don't like to use those type of fighters to figure out what's going on with others. Right? Like it's with the most respect, right? Like when you play a video game and you have your A class players and then you have your S class, and it's like, yo, like to get the S is just a slight step above that really just makes a difference you can't explain, right? Or your 99 player versus your 95 player. Like it's only 4 points, but them 4 points make a difference. You know what I'm saying? Like compared to the other 95 points you get playing the game, those 4 points make a difference, right? So I think that's where guys like Yuri sit, guys like Pereira sit, guys like Islam sit, right? Where they're just a class slightly above where when you look at a Jamal Hill, you're like, yeah, no, he's great. He's an incredible fighter. I don't know what changes you need to make because you can't actually figure out changes for these two guys.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know I'm not talking about physical change. Right. It's an internal change.
Yeah.
For him.
Now, internally, I don't know. Maybe that's part of what he needed. Maybe he was trying to balance out. Maybe, like I said, you need the right amount of fear. So maybe he was feeling so much fear, he was trying to overcompensate with confidence and swung too far. Right? Like, I don't know. But nonetheless, it was a amazing fight to watch. Like when you talk about, like, this is the type of violent fight that I feel like you can show most people because it never gets too gruesome. Right? There was never a super open cut. No one at no point up until it was almost over did anybody look like they were completely outmatched and in danger. Right? Like it was a very even, fair, like not fight. Fair, because Yuri was definitely outclassing him for the most part, but like I feel like you have to understand fighting to really see that major difference. As just a general person, you could look and be like, oh, these guys are fucking each other up.
Yeah, it was definitely a fight where you knew the end was near for either one of them at some point. Like there was danger. They walked through some dangerous waters, and
yeah, there was a couple dangerous moments.
But Yuri was clearly moving better.
Yeah.
As opposed to Jamal Hill was trying to, he's landing, I gotta land too.
But you've always pointed that out about Jamal Hill too. Like I've definitely always talked about
he bites down on his mouthpiece and just tries to hit you harder. He doesn't he doesn't try to avoid the strikes as much as he try. He just says,
He's
"Oh,
trying to end the fight faster.
Mhm.
He's like, "Oh, you are really beating on me right now. I just need to end this faster, as opposed to I need to get hit less."
Because think about it, in the glove, he did not get out the glove to share a fight unscathed. He was cookied
He was
up
in
on
war.
both sides. It was a
Mhm.
war. He's not somebody that you're like, this guy is putting on a master class. He's not even getting touched. That's never a thing with him.
Yeah, Jamal Hill's. I would love personally to see Jamal Hill, Khalil Roundtree.
Yeah, some people was asking for Yuri versus Khalil Roundtree, and Yuri had his respectful disrespect.
I'm on Yuri's side.
Meaning
Respectful.
that he's not on his level.
He's not his, like
Or
I
he's
just
not really
described.
He doesn't consider him an actual challenge.
Khalil Roundtree, A class. Yuri, S class.
I think
It's only a 4-point difference, but it's a big difference.
I think styles make matchups, and Khalil is fast enough that he can definitely get in on Yuri. But if he doesn't, Yuri will make it look easy. But Khalil's chance is knockout power.
Yes. Khalil's chance is definitely same as Jamal Hill's was. It was knockout power, for sure.
No, I think Khalil. I think Jamal Hill could have won a decision if with different game plans and stuff like that. But with Khalil, I don't see a chance he wins by points against Yuri. I think the only way he wins.
I think the better fight to make is Jamal Hill versus Khalil. It's probably the least likely fight because Jamal Hill respectfully took quite a beating, so he's going to be suspended for at least, I think, 60 days. I'm guessing 60 days because he wasn't completely out cold, but he did get knocked out, and he does have a lot of bruising.
He suffered any injuries that means he'll be out for 6 months or so.
No. 60 to 90. Merab Dvalishvili, my boy. The machine.
What would you say is the reason why he didn't shoot for any takedowns in the first 2 rounds?
Well, Merab did openly say that he thought Umar's wrestling was better than his before the fight. So he did say that. He was like, yes, I think I'm a little worried about that or whatever at some point, right? But so maybe he was worried about them being at the same cardio level and trying to wrestle would be an issue. Maybe he was really confident in striking. He just wanted to test it. I also have another completely separate theory that I don't know if anybody else has put out there yet, but just a thought. Merab always starts slow. Like all his first rounds are pretty much like that.
He has been known to get hit with the overhand right in the first round.
Right, and then somehow he gets started.
Somehow once he gets clocked, he wakes up and it's that fear thing.
Right.
Once somebody puts you in danger,
you're like, yo, I need to get to work, or I'm now this got bad.
In the beginning is a feeling process, but once you I'm in a fist fight and I need.
And he just wobbled me. Right, I need to get to it. And I don't think we saw as strong of a hit from either side.
Yeah.
But I do feel like Umar was piecing him up enough for him to be like, you know what? Let's go for it. And then once he gets the first takedown, that's the thing about somebody like Merab, bro.
You can tell
you
can tell the confidence growing.
He's a success machine, right? Like that's what the machine thing is. It's a success machine. Once you have success one time, that's it. He's on his gambler shit. Like I did this once. It doesn't matter if I have to do this a million times to do it again. I already proved I can do it once.
Yeah.
Once you get that going, it's a wrap. That's where my man shot 28 takedowns, bro. Against a Dagestani wrestler.
Yep.
Against a Habib Kemp person, bro.
Yep. And
28 takedowns is absurd.
Showboating while defending takedowns was crazy.
Nah, that was, bro, the showboating, that sequence, I need to get it on I don't even know how you get a sequence on a t-shirt,
That is what
bro.
you call aura.
Bro, Umar shot for the takedown. He stuffed it. He did some showboating. Umar swung at him. He missed. And then he hit him with the same shit he hit O'Malley with. Come on, bro.
Yeah,
champion status.
Marab gets going and he's in a
It's
whole nother
over.
level.
You need to catch Marab in the first round while he's cold, bro. Like the next person that stuns him with a hit needs to follow that shit up with everything they have in the tank.
Well, you're saying the next person. Who's the next person?
Well, according to Marab, it's O'Malley.
Yeah.
He said he's going to run it back with O'Malley.
Yeah, that's exactly.
I would rather see him run it back with Peter Yan. I think that's a better fight. We know what he's going to like. Look, he just.
I don't think it's a better fight.
We already saw what he did to O'Malley in the first fight, right? We just saw what happened with Umar. Do you think, off of the confidence of what he just did to Umar, he's not going to do the same to O'Malley again?
I'm on the side where
I'm hoping he gets the finish finally.
I'm on the side that he dominates him again.
I'm hoping. No. I'm on the side. Well, I guess I'm not on the side of. I'm praying for the next fight between him and O'Malley to be Marab's first finish in like 6 fights.
I don't care if he finishes. He's entertaining the entire time. You understand what I mean?
Yeah. He doesn't get boring. Mm-hmm. But I think at this point, like you've dominated Umar. You dominated O'Malley the first time you guys fought. The only thing really left to solidify yourself is to completely finish him.
I
like pull an Islam,
I
100%
think he could have finished O'Malley, and it was just more fun breaking him.
I think he could finish him this time
and keeping him for display.
I think that's what I mean. I think this time around, if he does the same thing, but if by round 3 we see the same broken O'Malley, it is Marab's duty at that point to finish the fight. It is your responsibility. You have the man broken the same way for the second time. Do you really think if you put him in a chokehold, he's going to fight back? Marab, you just kissed him on the back again. You think if you put him in a chokehold, he's going to fight back? That's what I mean. Like, you got to get the finish on these rematches, bro. That's what I want to see from the rematches.
But we saw some good things from Umar where he could.
And that's the beauty of it. That's why I'm referring to it. Like, Umar did so good.
He did well the first 2 rounds. He might have taken. He might have underestimated how great Marab is at just getting going and.
You know what it is? I think you really
Marab had about 3, 4, 5 more rounds left.
That's what I was gonna say. You can't really. There's nothing you can do to prepare for cardio, right? Like that's just like you can watch somebody's footage.
It's a difference
for the rest of your life.
There was a difference between the early takedowns from Marab, not being able to get him down, so at the end he was just able to grab him
and flip him.
He just yanked him down.
You can't prepare for that.
It's like, did he just like? Is he not as heavy anymore? No. He's just not as strong anymore.
Marab knows that. So he spends the first round bullshitting. That's what I see from Marab, right? Second round, he starts playing the cat and mouse tiring you out game. Third round is where he's going all in to tear, like he is going to tire you all the way out. And then those last 2, if they're necessary, just keep flipping people.
He's a very difficult guy to defeat because of this. Like
it's amazing. And then we've got pretty much the same guy, just a little taller. Islam Makhachev. It's crazy they're not on the same team, bro. Like, you imagine if Marab was part of the Khabib team, and Khabib. So, like, my imagination tells me, right, from my experience fighting, that Khabib is the type of coach that makes the team do workouts based on whoever's the best at that workout, right? So, like, let's say, for example, you are better than me at shooting threes, right? Like, you're the best on the team at shooting threes.
That's not an example.
This is a great example.
I'm way better than you at shooting threes.
You're the best on the team at shooting threes, right? So when we run 3 drills,
best in the world.
All right, tough guy. When we run 3 drills, coach is like, we have to run 3 drills based on your standard, right? And then if we're running crosses, I'm the best on the team at crosses. Like, we're running them based on my standard. So if that's the way Khabib trains, Marab on that team literally makes them the greatest team on the planet, bro. That's why God hasn't let that happen. God doesn't allow perfection.
I don't even think Marab is the best wrestler in that team. You kidding me?
No, not as a wrestler. I'm saying if they bring Marab to the team, Marab is not the best wrestler. Marab is undoubtedly the best cardio. So if Khabib starts making the whole team train to Marab's regimen of cardio,
It's one
and
of
you
those
get
things.
Islam with Marab's cardio?
It's one of those things you just got in you or you don't. Because
Boy got a
with
third lung,
with
bro.
with that logic, you're telling me that Aljo's cardio should be one of the best in MMA too.
No. Because what the part of that logic that you miss in the Aljo camp is they don't have Khabib. You need that type of coach, and I don't know that he's that type of coach specifically. What I'm saying is I know those type of coaches exist, right?
Well,
Like
I
I've
think all
seen
coaches would want to be able to present that kind of environment.
right, but like there are some coaches who like when I was competing, there was one team we fought against where their coach was like that, bro. Like
Well, when any coach gets certain success, you tend to give give them that kind of like.
I don't know.
respect.
I don't know about success. I know that dude was a demon, bro. Like
No, that's what I mean. That's what I mean, though. Khabib is so successful, or his teammates are going out there getting belts and stuff like that.
yeah.
You assume he's getting the best out of them. So yeah,
Yeah, right. Like that's what I mean. So like, I could see him being that type of
Mhm.
coach. I don't believe.
I remember.
Holy shit! I just blanked on who's in Marab's corner. Wow, that's crazy. Who's in Marab's corner? Who's Marab's coach? Marab and
Rob's
Aljo.
coaches. Dude is always on the show with these guys.
That's crazy, bro.
Italian dude, man, from Jersey.
It'll come back to us. But like with respect to him, like I'm not judging his coaching style in any way. Not saying one is better than the other, but I don't think he's that type of coach. I don't think he's the type of coach to say, "Yo, Aljo, today we're doing cardio and Marab is the lead, right? Everybody's chasing Marab, right? Tomorrow we're doing subs. Everybody's chasing Aljo, right? As far as like who's gonna get the most, like whatever. In that case, it would be like most subs in 30 minutes, right? And we just have people rolling back to back. And every time you sub somebody, you switch partners. You keep it rolling for 30 minutes, right? Who gets the most subs, right? The goal is Aljo's. Whatever Aljo's number is, that's what everybody's aiming for.
Mhm.
Aljo, what's going to be your minimum, right? Marab, you're setting the goal for us to do cardio. What's our minimum miles we running today?
Sprints and stuff. Whatever Marab runs, you guys have to do it.
Right, but I don't think that coach is.
You're not going till you're tired. You're
is it
going
Ray?
till he's Ray
Longo. Ray Longo. I don't think Ray Longo is the type of coach who's mandating that. While I look at Khabib and I say Khabib is probably the type of coach that's mandating that.
It's also it's also hard to even say what kind of coach Ray
because we don't get to see a lot of insight.
The only thing I would say about what kind of coach Ray Longo is, he's definitely a fighter's coach. He loves his fighters and they love him. Like there's a certain type of respect.
Yeah, they have a real family relationship, right? Where and Khabib has a family relationship too, right? Like they don't fight each other either.
Yeah, but they're also very like hard, way harder on each other.
Yes, they're very tough on each other.
Than the kind of vibe that Ray Longo gives.
Right,
like,
they're more friendly, more chill. They're
playful. When he talks about Chris Weidman, he's talking about him almost like
family, like a
son.
friend.
No, like his actual son that he birthed and all that. You know,
like you almost did with Chris Weidman.
Like
if you think about his career. Speaking of Chris Weidman, shout out to him retiring. He made it official, which for me I think is a big deal because I think we have. I don't want to say this the wrong way and get the idiot people too excited, but like we have a fraction of power when it comes to affecting these type of things for fighters, right? Like I'm not like if we're saying it's a scale of 100%, like we have 25% of the power in that conversation, right? Because we influence.
I tend to disagree with that. We had this debate a little about it. Like
you think it's less?
I think we have 0.
I don't know if we got 0, bro.
We push for whatever, but I am of the thinking the more people that DM Tony Ferguson saying to hang it up is just fuel to him.
Yes, that is true.
You're just feeding his ego, saying I have to prove these guys.
But that's not using our power. We have a limited amount of power. That's not how we're using it, right? Like that's not using power. That's just insulting somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like going into somebody you've never met's DM and telling them your opinion on their fight ability.
I think even
like that's disrespectful. Of course, he's going to fuel.
I think even in respect. I think if I DM Tony Ferguson, say, "Hey,
the DMing
I've been a fan of you from the
DM part is
from
the disrespect.
day one, and I'm tired of seeing you
The
get beat up.
the
I don't.
DM part is the disrespect. That's my take. Like you are talking to a stranger.
Yeah,
That's the disrespect part. Like
and,
this
and
person does not know you. It doesn't matter what you're saying. That's disrespectful, right? Like to tell someone you do not know directly to quit is crazy. It's crazy.
there's no right
Right?
way to do
However, what I say we have a little bit of power, and that's why I say it's a very little bit of power, right? Is we affect things based on how we have the conversation, right? So directly telling someone to quit, outrageous,
that.
right? Having the conversation amongst everybody around the circle of like, yo, like we all kind of agree, like it might be time, you know what I'm saying, is much better. The best option, which in the case of fighting is a little hard because of the way cards are made, but the better option is stop supporting it, right? So like stop watching the fights, right? If Dana, we can't, like you said, if we boo Tony, we fuel him to sign the contract. If we boo Dana, we fuel him not to put the contract out.
That's a good take
You know what I
because
mean?
it's Dana's job
Right.
to let him know
Like
like this is not it's enough is
it's
enough.
enough and enough is enough. Now,
Mm-hmm.
we can't stop Tony from going from UFC to Grandpa Fight League.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
out
If
of
he
your
does that,
control.
that's out of our control. But at the same time, we still have the same little bit of power.
Mm-hmm.
We don't watch Grandpa
Don't
Fight
go
League.
over it. Don't go over there
That's
and
it.
watch and support it.
They put him on a card, we don't buy the card.
Mhm.
Right? It's like I said, it's not the most power, but it's we got what we could work with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in the case of Chris Weidman, I think this is one of those examples that we can look at where I think the fans and the organization having the conversations in the way they did, right? We're like, yo, you did amazing in those last fights. Go out on top. You look great. Plus, what's going on with Tony, right? Like seeing the other conversations that could become you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, you know what? You guys are onto something. I should have done this in the cage, but I'm retired.
Weidman is such an interesting story because he's probably your ultimate good guy, but he came into the sport as being our villain right off the
He was
bat.
primed to be the villain.
Well, he knocked out the guy that we fell in love with, and a lot of people fell in love with the sport because of Anderson Silva,
Yep.
and like
And he came in there and said, "Night night."
he was the one to end the party, and it was like
It's like the guy that knocked out Kimbo Slice.
it was one of those things that I personally wasn't gonna root for him
Oh,
unless
really?
he like really became like really impressive because think about it. Look at his game. He wasn't exactly flashy in any sort. He looked like he was slow.
I mean, he learned in the sport. He's one of
Mhm.
those babies of UFC.
Had he had an impressive run and like beat off some legends outside of that, it almost looked like his run almost looked like that was a fluke. But it's just a game. The game caught up to him quick.
Caught up very quick.
Luke Rockhold beat the brakes off of him.
But again, in the case of Chris Weidman, I wouldn't say the game caught up to him quick because they threw Chris Weidman in at Boss 99 when he was still level 2, bro. Like he was not supposed to be there. So yeah, the win forever, no matter how anybody tries to tell the story, was a fluke. It wasn't a fluke in a fluke knockout no, it was a fluke in that every piece of paper you draw out and do the math on this says this guy does not win.
Yeah.
So if he wins, it's a miracle. And
then,
it was a great miracle. It was amazing.
Then you win by the leg kick, broken leg thing. And it was like
he keeps getting miracles.
He needed a stamp for me. For me, I was ready to see a third fight between the two. Because there was none of those fights was like, okay, the better fighter won. So that put him in a weird space,
right?
While trying to become a star.
And he was also again.
I today respect him and like any martial artist or whatever, but I never really believed in him as a great fighter.
And I think another thing that's really interesting is a testament again to the merger with the WWE, right? Had that happened earlier, and the introduction of heels happened a little
No,
earlier.
that's something that he don't have in him. Had he just leaned in and was like, "Yeah, I know, I just killed your hero," he would have been a
But
star.
I'm saying at that time, right? Like we talked about this before. At that time, that wasn't something in the culture yet, right? Like this is like the heel is something that we can 100% attribute to WWE. No matter how far it spreads, like they own that shit.
Yeah.
That was a wrestling thing, right?
Hmm.
If it would have transitioned into the sport or the culture of UFC or MMA, around the time Chris Weidman had won, we would have had people around him like a Chael, like we recognize Chael now, like a Kobe as we recognize now, who would have been in his ear like, yo, bro, just spice it up a bit. Spice it up a bit.
I actually don't think he has it in him. He was more.
Now, if he didn't have it, if he didn't have it, that's
He's
different.
just a really
I
humble dude,
I think he could have done
family
it.
guy.
I think he could have done it from what we see with his banter with DC when they share the
No,
TV
I
camera.
don't feel like he's not very comfortable in that. Sure, he'll throw in a dig here and there, but
But no, but I'm saying they could have they with the right molding, they could have got him. He wouldn't have been perfect, but he would have been better off attempting it than not.
he'd more likely be cringe.
I don't
Very
know.
cringe. Yeah,
But even as cringe, he would have been good, bro. Look at Triple C.
I didn't think that worked.
I think it did. I think it made enough people look at him as like the annoying guy that we need to beat
So
to
why?
make his fights
So why
sell.
did he leave? Try to make them miss him, and it didn't work. Like
Oh yeah, no, nobody missed him.
that's also a big misconception about fighters. Like you can leave and they won't miss you.
Yeah,
They went without John Jones for how long?
we don't miss people when they leave, bro. Because this is not a and it's unfortunate, but it's just not a sport
No.
of pastimes, right? It's a and we've had this conversation before too, where I always acknowledge like, yo, you do a much better job of archiving, right? Like you do it not as broadly as I would wish for, right? Like it's more around the fighters you personally like, which makes perfect sense, right? But you're even for me, like the fighters I love, I can't really rattle off a lot of history facts around them.
Mm,
I can rattle off like the most recent stuff pretty easy, right?
mm.
We have a strong recency bias in the sport because that's what it's about. It's the action. It's the right now.
It's also
You
about the
know,
moments.
it's about the
You
moments.
remember those
Yeah,
moments. I remember that moment that Cody Garbright destroyed Dominic Reyes. I mean Cruz. And I was as a fan, I was like
yeah.
taken out. Like he dismantled him, and
Piece by piece.
that doesn't go away. No,
Right.
you'll never
The same way that
forget it.
like a Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar doesn't go away, right? But these are also the type of fights that I think
The man was talking to DC in the middle of the fight. He's in the middle of the cage.
yo, you know what? Max don't get enough credit for that, bro. Everybody be chatting about all these fighters who be talking now and all this stuff. The
No.
two people who deserve the most credit for that are Max and Kevin Holland. Like Kevin Holland gets a decent amount because that was his nickname for a while,
Mhm.
but Max deserves more credit
Yeah,
for being
but
one of those people, bro.
Kevin just talks to like not get bored in there. Max was in the zone. It didn't matter how many punches was thrown at him. He was gonna finish off his sentences, weave,
Yeah.
bop, bop, bop.
But he's the first person that did it to make it interesting for the fight, right? Like Kevin Holland is just talking to talk,
Mm-hmm.
but Max was one of the first people, if not the first. Just like right now, I'm thinking about it. I'm like, that's the only person I can really think of that did it first, who was in the cage, actively fighting the right way, winning the fight, and then turned and
he's
was like, "Yo, check
always
this out. I'm
he's
that guy."
he's always chopped it up with fighters, man. He was piecing up Ortega, and then he said, "Listen, this is how you block a 1-2."
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah,
Picked his hands up
that
with
was
him.
different too. Like talking to the fighter, like
Like
this is what I mean, bro.
Max gets into a different type of zone. That's why that whole thing about trying to create a star out of yourself, when it's not authentic, it gets weird and cringy.
Ilya.
Max, Max is that's just in him.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
And we just like him as a person.
well, he's very likable.
That's the thing.
He's very humble.
Fun.
Sure has a dog in him, but he doesn't seem to have like be a malicious person in any
Nope.
sort. He's a very respectful person. He just likes to fight.
He just likes the war. Just likes the
Yeah.
war.
He's into that gladiator spirit stuff. Like He's like, dude,
Before
gladiators ain't step on a scale before they got it on. They just got it
just got
on.
it on
Like,
with all sorts of weapons in
like
there.
what are we talking about?
Before we get into this weekend's fights, I do want to give a quick shout out because we never actually gave him the shout out he deserves. Renato Moicano for stepping up short notice. Yeah, you lost the fight.
That's my
That's
dog right
expected.
there. That's my
But
dog
Money
right there.
Moicano,
He's also working, trying to get that Patty fight.
yeah, which I think is a genius idea.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really smart. Knock down Patty, and you might be able to get another title shot down the road.
Do you think he just runs through Patty?
Honestly, I like Patty's personality. I haven't paid a lot of attention to him fighting. Like I was saying to you earlier, right? Like every time a Patty fight comes up, I usually just look at him, look up some highlights, look him up, look up a couple fights, right? And I think about it from that perspective. Like, do I want to see this? Am I excited? I mostly look at who he's fighting because I haven't really, as a fighter, I haven't really broken him down at all. But I just like him as a person. I think he's fun. I think he's the right amount of brash, and he's genuinely brash. That's just his personality.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't say. But from what I've seen of Renato Moicano, I think it'll be good. It'll be competitive for
It
sure.
can be a good fight. I also think that it might be a bad matchup for Money Moicano.
Yeah? Yeah? Wow. Okay.
Which is something that Patty obviously saw. Patty's very strategic about who he even chirps with. Because if I'm chirping with you and then you're calling for a fight and I'm go over here, what does it appear like?
Like I'm ducking.
And he's very strategic about that.
Yep.
He's not gonna get into a verbal like he's not gonna talk about you tapping easily
If he don't think he can make it
if he don't
happen.
think he can do it himself.
Mm-hmm.
He's not.
Do you think he can do it? You think he taps him?
I know he believes he can.
But do you believe he can?
Personally,
What do you believe?
I think his size can bother Moicano and lead to him shooting on a bad takedown and putting him in a bad position.
Yeah?
Yeah.
See, from what I've seen of Moicano, I felt like on the feet, he would be evenly matched with Patty. I don't know enough about Patty's ground game to say where they would stand with each other. I know Patty's got a great ground game, as we saw in the training video, as we saw against Bobby. But again, like Patty's personality as a person is so good and so camera worthy.
Listen,
that it's just fun.
Those two fight. There's gonna be a press conference because they are talkers.
Yeah, and it's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is like Patty versus Moicano is the type of thing that I would love to watch a 5-round main event on a random fight night. That'd be amazing.
I do it.
That would be amazing.
I'd be all in for it, but I don't think it will be. I think it'll
it would definitely be on a pay-per-view.
Definitely be a pay-per-view
main event card.
Main event card, co-main event possibly.
Not co-main.
It possibly is.
There's too many belts right now. Like there's too many belts that haven't been defended is what I meant to say with that. Too many belts is crazy. Too many belts that haven't been defended in a while. So I think it'll be a while. Yeah, though we were talking boxing for a bit.
If we are going to talk about boxing.
We are not. Boxing is boring right now, bro. Until Dana starts boxing.
If we are going to talk about boxing, I'm going to talk about how Crawford and Tank got into a little war of words.
Ooh, the little spicy war of words they had. Yeah, that was fun. Was fun.
Tank talking about his wife being a 300-pounder or something like crazy. That. Like, I think that was the exact moment when Crawford said, "We're not talking about a boxing fight. I'm talking about if I see you outside, I'll break your neck."
That shit was crazy, bro. Son came at Terrence's wife for being fat. That's wild, bro. He said you got a 300-pound wife and 4 kids. Of course you need a check. And you know how crazy that is to say to a millionaire?
Yeah, man.
Yo, like if you in the block and you say that to somebody, is like, word, we all broke, so we get it.
There's always choice words.
Crazy.
There's always choice words that take it to like when John Jones told DC, "I'm not talking about fight you. I will kill you if you spit on my face."
Right? Like what?
Like. These are fighters saying, we're not talking about fighting. We're talking about
real shit.
Real fighting. Now we booking no contract.
Like, I see you.
Yeah, man. Those are two guys that have been in the news lately a lot, but a lot of fake news and fake bookings. Tank versus, Um,
All the stuff with Ryan Garcia, Devin
Ryan
Haney, and
Garcia,
Pitbull,
Haney, and
um,
Crawford versus Canelo.
and Lopez. Like, it's
Like,
such a mess right now, and I want
yeah,
somebody to just take over, hold it down, and then I'll be back interested in boxing. But like right now, trying to pay attention to boxing is a headache, bro. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
it's the antics.
This weekend, however,
Gotta
we
be
do
nice.
have a fun fight night card in Saudi
Nice.
Arabia, which means it starts nice and early in the day. So it's not going to be a late card. Should be fun. One of the first fights that I'm excited for, I think you'll be excited for it too. Fares Zaim versus Mike Davis.
Fares Zaim got that crazy
Got a
knockout.
beautiful knockout his last time out, but I don't think he's going to be able to pull that off against the wrestler Mike Davis. Now, Mike Davis also has some really good striking, I think, but for the most part, he's got like DC American style wrestling. You know what I mean?
The French are known to be able to wrestle.
Right. So I think, it'll. The reason I think this is exciting is because Mike Davis is an exciting wrestler. He's not like a boring wrestler. When he's wrestling, he's looking for ways to finish the fight or put you in really bad positions. So I think it should be exciting. Right after that, we got your boy, Terrence McKinney, going up against Damir Hadzovic. Now, if I remember correctly,
what do you mean going up? He always fights at 155.
No, not going up. I mean, like, just going against. If I remember correctly, well, that's taking this sweet ass time to load, but I'm gonna double check because I think Damir is. Nope, I was wrong. I thought he was coming in debuting, but I guess not.
No.
His last fight was against the Kiazi, and he lost that. So, is this a trap?
I think they're throwing Terrence a bone.
Yeah, because he took a bad loss against.
He's been a company guy. He's fought a lot of these guys that like, even the matchmakers are like, they don't really know him too well to like, what's their level. And he fought them and got starched. And Terrence is a very kill or be killed guy. He has 100% finish rate in the UFC, or in his career, I think, actually.
Yep.
He either kills you or you kill him.
Or you kill him. But they don't go to decisions when you got Terrence McKinney in there. I'm sorry to say this,
take
but
a break of that fight.
I don't know what it is, but for some reason, the way he's like, I just keep seeing a cartoon spider. I don't know what it is, bro. It doesn't even. It's just like it's like a Halloween, like those Halloween spiders with the smiley face. Like that's what you see when you see what I'm seeing when I see Terrence McKinney, bro.
Listen, Terrence McKinney is my guy. I'm always.
Yo.
I believe that got scrapped. There's no more.
Okay, so we're not even gonna address that.
It's not Jordan Levy anymore.
My boy Thomas Peterson against Shamil Gaziev. Now, for those who don't know, Thomas Peterson trains with Javier, who is one of the guys, my guy. He was actually in a car accident recently, so really glad he survived that. But Javier Torres trains Waldo Cortez Acosta. So, rooting for my guys, bro. Rooting for Thomas Peterson. Last time Shamil Gaziev was out, all right, so I feel like he's worth the minus 300 if we weren't talking about heavyweights, right? Because heavyweights, you never know what's going to happen. Shamil should be able to out-wrestle Thomas Peterson on paper.
He's not a wrestler.
No, he's not a wrestler, but he should be able to out-wrestle Thomas Peterson. So I'm hoping.
Is it because of the beard?
No, because he has some wrestling in him. You know what I mean? He's got it.
He has the beard like a Dagestan wrestler, but he's not exactly a wrestler.
He's a striker, but he's not.
More of a stand-up guy.
He's not great, especially compared to the rest of the heavyweight division. Like he's better off going the wrestling direction. With that said, bias aside, I do think Thomas is going to be the underdog to sleep with this year because this week because
I don't see it, but I hear you. It's worth the.
I think that's the one. I think that's the one. I know I'm biased because of my relationships, but even outside of that, I think that's the one. The other one that might be possibly a crazy setup situation, so avoid it at all costs.
I don't think Andre Munoz is very dangerous.
That's what I'm saying. Avoid it at all costs. Andre Munoz versus Ikram Aliskerov. Andre at plus 400 against Ikram, that's not the one you want to do. No. Avoid this dog. The dog to avoid. This is not one of those, like, we just had an amazing weekend. with some parlay busters, some fraud checkers. This is not one of those situations. Ikram got smoked by the great Robert Whitaker.
This is another situation where I think the UFC is throwing
Throwing
him
him
a
a bone.
bone because he just fought Robert Whitaker on 2 weeks' notice or a week notice.
A week notice.
Huh.
Yeah, a week notice and got smoked.
Mhm.
If you do play the Muniz side, I really think the only smart decision is submission, but I still think that's a bad decision.
No.
Then we got one of the more interesting fights on the card.
Vera, who had that crazy finish last year. Oh
Yes, versus Said Nurmagomedov, who I believe is also coming off of a pretty decent finish, if I remember correctly. Against Muin Gufarov, who just beat Rinya Nakamura. I believe he did KO him. So this should be a really exciting fight. Of course, I'm on the Vinicius side.
Are you?
100%.
I don't know. This could be a. To be honest, that this might be fight of the night.
I'm not saying I'm on the Vinicius side because I think Vinicius is that much better of a fighter. I'm saying it because I'm a Vinicius fan.
I'm not on either.
I think
side
they're equal.
I think it's gonna be that good of a
Yeah,
fight.
it's gonna be that good of a fight. They're on pretty equal footing. It's gonna be a pick 'em. I'm picking the Vinicius side. That's all it is. Now on this one, Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Sergey Pavlovich. If there was a second underdog that I would be super big on, is Jairzinho, and I'm not alone because the odds are flipping.
What are the odds?
They're not even visible here. We'll have to check FanDuel afterwards. But when I was looking at them Sunday, Sergey was in the plus 200s. When I looked at them this morning, Sergey was
the dog?
was the favorite. But he's turning to the dog, and he's going to lose the fight.
What makes you think that?
Jairzinho is a way more technical volume striker. We have seen what happens to Sergey when you put up Alex Volkov, technical striker. Tom Aspinall, technical striker. Jairzinho is only outshined because Cyril Gane exists. He is an incredible kickboxer, bro, especially for the weight class. That's going to be a fight. But like I said, that's my second underdog I'm calling
I see it going just like how when Francis hit him. Sergey touches him, it's going to be just like when Francis hit him. Sorry.
Yeah, but Francis was a way better striker than Sergey. Way better.
I'm just talking about the brute force punch.
Technicality matters, and I think that's going to show. Now this fight right here, it's fair to say I'm biased. Bias is the name of this fight card for me this week because everything that I'm really rooting for is just fandom. I need Michael Venom Page to win this time because if he does not win, I cannot keep being a fan.
Never been a Michael Venom Page fan.
He was the only reason I watched Bellator.
But for what? You were watching him fight Cans.
It was fun to watch. And you don't know he's fighting Cans until you bring him to the UFC and you see
that's where it was hard for me to be a fan of his because at one point do you want to be great?
You know what's crazy? Michael Page is the only living example of what we were talking about earlier with the Michael Jordan LeBron example, right? He might not have been fighting Cans. He just might have been fighting the talent of that time. Because remember, at that time, outside of the best guys in the UFC, everybody else was pretty much on par with the Bellator guys record-wise.
I can't.
It's now this generation.
I can't fit that. I can't feed that narrative because I watched enough of Bellator to know that the guys that he was fighting weren't the top level guys. He wasn't going for the belt. He just continuously fighting unranked guys.
I don't know about that.
That's exactly what happened. I never knew. His most famous opponent was Cyborg's husband.
But that's a different thing because again, the exact comparison I was just making, right? When you talk about the UFC back then, right? Most people can't name people like you can't name the top 7 fighters for most of the UFC back then, right? Or the people under the 7.
There was some special
Right,
divisions.
under 7 you can't really, right? Like under 7, most of the fighters back then had really wild records. You weren't seeing all of these undefeated. You weren't seeing these super like performers, right? Like the sport has evolved
It's
tremendously.
always been a fist fight. Massera beat GSP. Matt Hughes beat GSP. He got those fights back,
Yeah, that's what
but
I
it's
mean.
always been a fist fight.
Back then, it was much tighter.
I just
Now
never.
you have much more dominant fighters.
But you see the same thing. Like I said, these guys beat GSP. GSP was constantly fighting fighters who were there. They were in the division or whatever. When you're winning, when you're 10-0 in an organization, and you're not fighting for the belt, it's telling. They don't believe you're top level, or you don't believe you're top level. Why aren't you calling for the belt? Why did Phil Davis go 18-0 or 19-0, and instead of calling John Jones out, he trained the guy that he just beat for him to fight John Jones? It's telling. You can't. I can't ignore those things. Why aren't you fighting for the title?
So I understand what you're trying to paint, right? But it's a merit-based picture that doesn't change the fact that he was fighting professional fighters.
No.
Right? So
there were guys being signed to fight him. Like never, they didn't have a previous fight. They just fought him. I've seen that happen a couple times.
But you understand, like, those people are not like guys who aren't training.
No, 100%.
Right. So what I'm saying
you're trying
is
to fool your audience by
it's
putting up
not. But
somebody
this is
with
this is
no
what.
resume.
But by saying that, you're literally not. You're not accepting that, right? Because again, you're talking about a time period, right, where even the UFC was struggling to sign fighters. That's why they started tough, right? So if they're struggling as the top organization to sign fighters,
I would also push back on that. I think tough is great in the sense that you're not really struggling to sign the fighters.
no.
You're struggling to like measure how
No,
good they are.
tough isn't
places.
the end all be all of struggling to sign fighters.
Mm.
That was just one way that they were testing. But during that period, they were struggling to sign fighters. That's a real thing, right? It's part of the whole story of why UFC was struggling, because on top of the financial struggle of making money, you had a catch-22 of how do we make money when people don't want to watch these people fight? How do we get people want to watch fight when we don't have money?
Tough brought out the personality.
Tough brought the personality, didn't cost as much money as trying to sign fighters, and kept you interested. It gave you an opportunity to build a fighter without putting them at risk, right? So that's how they solved that. So it was just one of many potential solutions.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem was we're having trouble signing fighters, right? And the issues that I'm pointing to is simply back then, people were still much more boxing, much more just wrestling. Right, like even as a college wrestler, once you finished college, you had nowhere to go if you didn't want to do WWE.
And if you wasn't in the level to be an Olympic wrestler.
Exactly. If you wasn't, and even if you were an Olympic wrestler, you had a job, because what else can you do besides wrestle Olympic? Now people are actively training this sport, understanding even if you never make it to the UFC, you can have a career in this sport, right? So that's where I say, like, Michael Venom Page, where I agree with you, is he's a testament to the idea that the sport has evolved. So him being great back then, maybe we can call them cans now, especially by comparison to what we see now. But back then, those were just the guys training. They might not have ended up being great, because what did it mean to train? Like, they weren't MMA gyms. You went to a boxing gym and hoped somebody was down to wrestle. You went to a wrestling gym and hoped somebody was down to strike.
And that's protecting him when you know that this guy.
Right, so that
not
side
a high
of it,
level wrestler, you don't put him in there with a You could have put him in there with somebody who's never struck before.
That side I give you.
But has wrestling, and
that side I give you.
They definitely
Bellator was definitely goose egging him, right? Like, they were definitely protecting him because they could have put him against wrestlers.
But no,
right?
His flashy knockouts was paying the bills.
That was paying the bills.
It was getting the highlights that for
so avoiding wrestlers 100%. But you can't take away from the quality of strikers he was fighting, right? Like they weren't as good as him, but that's a testament to how good he was. Because some of the other guys were good.
And
You know
that's
what I'm
another
saying?
thing.
But again,
And that's
they're
another
not
thing.
memorable.
What they do after, I have there's no resume of
Well,
somebody.
by the same measure, the guy who knocked Michael Venom Page out first went on to get knocked out back to back.
No, he didn't. He went on to win the belt. He went on to win the belt, defended it, tried to go up and lost. Got knocked out in
Sure.
middleweight. Yeah. He won the belt.
The uppercut knockout?
Yeah. The guy that knocked him out was the brother. His brother was in the UFC. I'm not remembering either of their names right now. But he won the title, welterweight title. He then went up and lost to a dude that used to be in the UFC that Uriah Hall knocked out.
I'm not remembering clear.
Yeah,
I do remember that one of the guys
he didn't have
that
a long
beat.
reign, but he definitely won the belt and he went
But
up and lost.
even that's a perfect example. Like if he went up and lost to a UFC fighter, just once again showing like it's not that they're putting him against cans, is that cans are what's left when the best organization is taking the best fighters.
Yeah, it's levels to the game.
Exactly. You know? So I've always looked at Bellator as a feeder system. I know that they hate that. They hated it. RIP Bellator. Shit is rap. But, you know, and that brings us to the next person who kind of fits that Michael Venom Page book. Like you, not from your perspective, because
Well,
your
my
perspective is Michael Venom Page was fighting cans. I don't agree with that.
Did you ever feel like Izzy was being protected? I think he started off his career getting fed wrestlers.
So for the perspective of wrestlers, right? At that point, Izzy was a nobody. You understand?
No, he didn't come into the sport as a nobody. He came into somebody as a former kickboxer.
As a former kickboxer, right? So
champion.
for MMA, you're a nobody. You know what I'm saying? We didn't celebrate people coming from other sports as champions that much back then. Like we celebrated champions from other MMA organizations.
Well, that's the thing.
You know what I mean?
I do think that Izzy coming into the organization and having the success he did,
it could be said he was the gateway for that.
It put a pedestal up there for more kickboxers to come into the sport and have the success
and give it a shot.
Because you've seen somebody do it.
Because up until that point, it was just the wrestlers dominating.
You've seen somebody do it. Somebody who he didn't try to turn into a wrestler.
So, but that's what I'm saying. As far as like when he came in, that's a testament to Dana and saying Dana's like, I don't give a fuck who you are. We don't protect fighters. You think you're the best? Go fight.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Bellator didn't have that option.
It's too difficult to try to do that.
Right? Bellator didn't have that option. But what I'm comparing for Izzy is not that part of it. I'm talking about his longevity. Right? Izzy is one of the few fighters who can say he's fought through generations, like John Jones. Right? He has fought, like you said, he fought some of the tougher older guys. He fought some of the tougher guys that were at his generation. He fought some of the tougher guys after his generation.
It's a little different. Izzy has been a very active fighter, fighting 4 times a year, every year. While John has been around for a while, and you see the aging of the people around him.
Yeah.
As opposed to
that's Izzy. Why I think Izzy's the better example. Because Izzy is an example of this is somebody who has been able to survive all of the evolutions until the new one, right? This new evolution where we got, for lack of a better term right now, we'll call it the sloppy fighter, right? Like, what do you do with that? You know what I'm saying? Sean Strickland, he's not, like, you call him a brawler. A brawler would just be a sloppy fighter, right? Like, he's in there. He's technical as a striker by comparison to, like, a bar fighter, right? But compared to a technical kickboxer, what Sean Strickland beat Izzy with was overwhelming pressure of brawling. Like, basically, it was just that.
He strike wrestled him.
Right, he strike wrestled him. He was like, I'm not going to give you a chance to even try to fight back. Mm-hmm. Right, like when you play a video game and you just keep hitting the same button, you're like, I'm just not going to let you punch back. That's how I'm going to win, right?
And even when you do, I'm so in close, you're not getting much
force, right? Yeah. Drake is same thing. I'm just going to keep pressuring you so you really can't do the stuff you're great at. That's what I saw Strickland do, and it worked. I don't pressure strike. I pressured whatever I do. Right? So, like, now they just put him back against Nasruddin Imavov, right? Who is just another kickboxing guy. He's just another striking guy.
He can wrestle.
He wrestles okay, but he's mostly a striking guy. That's how Sean Strickland beat him.
Well, Sean Strickland beat him when he was very green and his gas tank gave out on him. He got tired by punching Sean Strickland because he was beating him up. Got tired.
Man
Sean
got
Strickland.
KO'd.
Sean Strickland's not a guy you want to be in front of tired.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. None of these guys are, to be honest. Like, as much shit as people talk online about fighters,
the way Sean Strickland fights is already exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
So
and that's
now,
again, like you said, he pressure strikes you.
Mhm.
You know, so it's wild. But odds makers have this at Pick'em,
basically.
and I cannot tell you the last time that I recall seeing Israel Adesanya at a Pick'em.
Let alone not fighting for the belt at a pick'em.
That's wild.
Because this is his first fight not for the title in real
But if he
time.
wins, he could be turning it around, right? He might be able to transcend another evolution of fighters.
Mm-hmm. He was the first to get to recapture the middleweight title. Could he be the first to get it a third time?
Third time?
I'm on the thinking of no. I'm of that thinking that he won't.
I just don't want him to lose this fight. That's all I care about right now.
If Sean Strickland somehow beats DDP, and he's impressive in this
Bro,
one.
if Sean Strickland beats DDP, he beats Adesanya again. That's my problem with this. That's my problem with the title fight, bro. Either one of them wins, they evolve their crazy another level, and they beat Izzy again.
I don't see that. I could see DDP winning again. My thing is with Sean, he is who he is, and Izzy is he's not a little. I think he's a lot smarter of a fighter than Sean Strickland is, and way more. He has the ability to make adjustments in a way that Sean doesn't. Sean is who he is. He doesn't. I don't think he makes adjustments, so that makes him more susceptible to lose the rematch. That's my logical response. The fan in me obviously wants to say Izzy wins regardless.
I don't think you could say he doesn't make adjustments because we've actively seen the training adjustments he's made.
We've seen him evolve. I think this is peak Sean Strickland.
I think he's maxed out.
But
that's what I mean. If he beats Dracus, it shows that he's not.
How could he beat Sean Strickland? I mean, Dracus without adjusting though.
That's what I mean. So if he beats Dracus, he beats Izzy again. If Dracus beats Strickland, right? Remember, a lot of people think Strickland won the first fight. So if Dracus beats Strickland definitively, he obviously adjusted, which means he beats Izzy again. So like it's a really bad situation.
I can see
Izzy,
a situation
bro.
where he doesn't where he doesn't make an adjustment and just catches him.
Catches who?
DDP.
Sean Strickland?
You can't see that scenario?
Yeah, I can because when I think of the adjustment, in my mind, the adjustment is more wrestling, and I don't see him doing more wrestling.
He's not gonna wrestle.
So yeah, I can see that.
He's had the wrestling in his back pocket. He doesn't use it.
Yeah, I can see that. Well,
maybe more T kicks up the middle to stop the wrestling?
No. He needs to do more flying what the fuck kicks.
He doesn't do that. Great. He doesn't do that. White man can't jump. He doesn't do that.
What are you talking about? He definitely did that against Paulo.
He did a flying.
You don't remember?
Oh, it was a goofy move. So
I was being sarcastic.
White man can't jump.
Yeah. Man, listen, that's our show for this week. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the main event Fightcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We will see you here next week. Thank you so much.